Hello?
Tina, tell me about this release today.
Oh, wow. um, well, no matter what, like most people, even you, we've talked about it, pretty positive, he's bridge guy. He's done this. I think last week when we talked, the defense, his defense team, was like, he says it's not him. He says it's not him. I almost was like doubting, was it him? Did they have the wrong guy? The prosecutor wasn't saying anything against that, but then we got this today. I learned things, but then I have questions too. I mean, what do you think? I think it's him.
Oh, I definitely agree with that, but tell me what you learned. What do you think you learned?
Okay. He waited for him, obviously, because you have the witness saying, that when she got up to the bridge, he was already there, so he was waiting. Now, when I say that, I don't know that it was planned, because there's no evidence whatsoever that he had social media. I mean, he had to have somehow, but we don't see that. Kagan is not being charged with this. So was he waiting for the right person? Because that witness said she walked up, he was there, and then she turned and walked away. Now, do we not know if she had walked across, if he would have went after her? Because she said after, she went back, that's when she saw Abby and Libby approaching the bridge. And obviously they went on across, because I thought about that for a while. Was it planned? Did he plan to meet them specifically? I don't think so. I think it was just a chance encounter. He was just waiting for someone to cross that bridge. Go ahead.
Here's a question for you. Now, we learned today from that PCA that he had already walked out on the bridge, according to one of those witnesses. And then we see that picture of Abby, and there's no one there on the bridge. And then we found out that that video was with her on the bridge and him on the bridge too. What happened there? Did he back up? And what happened with that? How are you interpreting that?
Well, did it not say something about they took a still photograph from that video? So I want to think that they took Abby out of that. You see what I mean? Like they took her for us, so we didn't see her. I mean, we thought that there was a sleeve of hers there or a shadow that made it look like it was her there. So that I'm not like you. You're more schooled in that than me as far as the video, messing with the video and picture. But to me, that's what I thought was it said that they took a still photograph, and that's what they put out to the public. So they probably took her out. I think she was right there, or he was right there behind her. And I don't know if he realized Libby had been recording. How do we know what angle she had that phone? She could have that phone down to, like, by her hip, recording him. We don't know.
Well, I think that I'm more referring to, and it could be the same same answer.
Okay, I'm sorry. What?
Well, no. It's like that picture of her at 207.
Supposedly. Oh, at 207. Okay, I see.
Well, because they left me with reading through the PCA that, the witness said that he had already walked out on the bridge, and then maybe he collapsed back into the side, where you enter the bridge. I don't know. I didn't understand that part. But
there was a lot of. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, there was just a lot of choppy stuff in that anyways. So, I mean, some of it was hard to follow, didn't you think?
Well, the one thing that I did follow is that, you've heard me talking on our back channels, like there's no way this guy, he doesn't even have a phone. But I learned that he was at least watching his 401k plan or whatever, his stock, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know.
There was a lot there. There was a lot there that keep us talking. And of course, the vehicle situation, of course, there's several versions of the Focus.
Mm-hmm.
But now let's talk about this though. Like, I did a little quick short, and this guy got there according to the video from the Hoosier, whatever, what's the name of the grocery or whatever it is?
Hoosier Harvest.
What is that?
It's like a little country store.
Okay.
Like a little country mart type thing.
So maybe like a farm store type thing where you go buy seed and stuff, or was it like a grocery store type thing?
The one I've been to that was similar to that had like a little mini mart. Like they sell gas and have very few little quick grab grocery items.
Okay, so there's a video that shows him getting there at 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
And then the girls, and it had a redacted name, who dropped them off at 1:49. Mm-hmm. And then, he had already rushed out there, and according to a witness, went out there on the bridge and maybe retracted. But see, that sounds, but it doesn't mean that it was planned, but it sounds very tight. It's like he could have taken advantage of the first people that walked along that trail. How do you interpret that?
I have more questions and everything, even hearing this stuff. But like I said earlier, he lived close to Abby. So maybe he saw that. Could he have seen them, and was already up there somehow because he's seen them and, took the chance they were walking to the bridge? Because he did know, well, I would assume he would know Abby because of where her mom worked, and he frequented, and he lived close to her, and he lived by the school. So could it have been, he saw them get dropped off? Would he have had time from where they were dropped off? I don't know the map real well. So would he have had time to seen them dropped off, like, oh, hey, I know her, and went on up to the bridge? Does that make sense? Would that have been possible?
Well, he got there at 1:30, and they got there at 1:49. That's what concerns me, is that I don't know. Yeah. So it's like he backed in, and like, I don't know, in our state, we only have one set of license plates on a vehicle in the back.
We do too. Yeah, we do too.
Okay. So like some states have two.
Yeah. No, in Indiana it's one.
So he backs in, and he goes out there. He just, I don't want there to be two, and then, so you have, so you have that tight timeline, 19 minutes before they get there, he gets there, according to this PCA. And he, according to these people that saw him, he was like in a huff to get there. Mm-hmm. He was, they said hello to him. He was like, didn't say anything. He just kind of rushed on by. And then he goes out there, he walks out onto the bridge. And then if you look at that picture of Abby, and if it wasn't altered, then he collapses back into the wood. And then he comes out. By 2:13, there was a 2:07 picture of her, and the 2:13 give Snapchat time to upload. And then he's there, and he pushes his girl down his hill. Goodness gracious, Tina, I don't want there to be multiple people involved in this, because it becomes complicit. It becomes very complicated after that. But it makes me wonder, but I may be kind of putting a disease into your line of thought. So, like, if you were to encapsulate what you saw with this thing today, ignore what I've said. But now just wrap it up with a bow, what you saw today with this thing. I mean, because, there's good stuff with this. I mean, we feel pretty conclusive that this guy was involved,
Oh, yeah.
And let me say one more thing, then I'm going to let you take off for just a second. And just ramble for a minute, just like I'm doing. But now there was like I think it was in the 3 o'clock hour, maybe close to 4 o'clock, that he was seen bloody and muddy walking down the road. What happened? How did you interpret this thing?
Well, when I read that, my first thought, and again, it's my thought, it was he did not plan on murdering them, maybe because something went wrong. Once they got down the hill, maybe the girls took off, which, I've speculated that before. Maybe they fought him, and so it just led to that's where he murdered them, and that's why he didn't have a change of clothes. He didn't plan on that. So he had no choice. He had to get out of there. So that's why he was seen muddy and bloody, because it went wrong. And then we saw today where they had the kidnapping charging documents put out today too. So had he planned on kidnapping them? And even that, why were they targeted? Why were, or one of them, why was, that planned? So I think that, honestly, that it went wrong, and he did not plan on having to walk, but he had no choice. People are out there searching. So he had to walk like that. I would have thought maybe he'd have, at least if it was on his jacket, turn his jacket inside out. And the other thing, that the description of the witnesses, or that the witnesses gave, one of them, I can't remember if it was just one or if it was two, but gave it a description of all in black. And that's a very different all in black head to toe versus, a man with gray, brown hair, blue jacket, light blue jeans and boots. I mean, that's a big difference. And I know blue looks black. There's some blacks that look blue. But if, you can clearly see in the video that, he has a blue jacket and blue jeans. So is that where the second person comes in? That really stuck out to me. That is that the second person? And how did that, is that where the planning came in? I mean,
well, that's interesting, because like you and I talked, just texting back and forth, we're like, well, we can understand blue jean jacket, we can understand, like a black jacket and blue jeans, but all in black is kind of weird. And like you said, walking down the street back to his vehicle, I mean, I could comprehend taking the jacket off and folding it and putting it under your arm, but just wearing muddy, bloody clothes, you know, when there's going to be a murder discovered. But now there was mention of his face being covered, and obviously this guy, if you listen to the narrative out there, there's a narrative that he went into some kind of a mental rehab, and he apparently told this DNR, or whatever this guy is, that he was there and that he had walked out on the bridge, but he didn't see these girls. He saw these other girls that were also there that gave witness that they saw him, but he didn't see Abby and Libby. That's just, I mean, this, like I think that you said, it's like this guy put himself there and said he was bridge guy, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
he thought he was being sly when he was talking to the conservation officer, and then when they brought him in and interviewed him, they knew he saw those three witnesses because they saw him. He knew they made eye contact. First of all, one girl said hi to him. So he knew he had to say, he saw them. He couldn't remember if the hair was brown or the hair was black. And if you're there where they were, how did you not see the two murdered girls? That makes...
They mentioned that they had like a digital blah, 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 and camera evidence that he was there. IMEI, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Your phone places you places.
Yeah.
But, so I think he had to say he was there.
Oh, yeah. But he didn't, he put himself right there, though. On that bridge.
He could have said something else. But it's like he got nervous and started yakking.
Oh, yeah.
Way too
yeah,
much.
And that's what a lot of, from watching true crime stuff, a lot of people, you get them talking and they'll tell it, not realizing that they've just, gave themselves up. And the car, that they were looking for that driver. They wanted to know if anyone else, saw that driver. So that car was key. And I got to thinking about something. You had kind of led me to it when, a witness said it was like a PT Cruiser. And you had said there's several models of Ford Focuses. And that's true because they even said it was maybe a small SUV. Those Ford Focus wagons, there are Ford Focus wagons that are small that could be considered, like a crossover or something like that to someone. So I was like, when you said that made, okay, maybe somebody mistook a PT Cruiser, but, it was just, I think he was hiding. He hid his plates, obviously. I think that's what he was doing. But then again, I learned a lot. I still have questions. I still, I'm like you. I wanted, I don't know if it's right how to say it. I want to just to be him, just to imagine someone else. Sitting around planning this is just beyond me.
Well, of course, you have to contemplate him having, some kind of, a pre-warning that they'll be there because he got there so, in that huff. Now, I don't know that he did. I hope he didn't. But, I can entertain the thought,
Yeah.
But I don't understand it, though. This guy who is, I don't think we'll ever understand it. But, this is a guy with, married at that time, probably 25 years. He's got a daughter that's, probably just got engaged. He just, had a 25-year anniversary. I think we've figured out that maybe his wife was out of town. We don't know that she was, but there's a possibility that he didn't have that accountability.
Yes.
Maybe he was about to go into some kind of a mental facility for alcoholism. Maybe it was for something else. Who knows? But there was a lot of indicators that produced this guy being there and doing what he did, which is unfortunate for the girls, their families. But
you speaking of the families, I wonder what they got this that we did, and to know that they had this early on. And like I mentioned to you earlier, in all fairness, it was the FBI who was pushing the Ron Logan, and there was I'll call it a bad breakup between the FBI and ISP in Carroll County. And because at that presser, you could see Doug Carter just so stressed about talking about had to go back to the beginning because I think he even made the comment about wasting time. And Ron Logan himself said they wasted a year and a half on me when they should have been looking for the real guy. But that was the FBI. I mean, this woman agent, she was just determined it was him. So they wasted, their time for a year and a half, and maybe that was the changing gears. They went back to the beginning because once they took over and went through this, they had all this stuff, but I go back to also, they had this in the beginning. Why didn't, can you stand up to the FBI? No, this is what we have. We have witnesses that saw this. We have video. We have his car.
Yeah, and the FBI, we've watched all the TV with Bones and all these people. They have all this sophisticated equipment and all this knowledge and big brains and all this kind of business. But those guys, they had boots on the ground there. And of course, we've heard this FBI narrative, and it doesn't sound like they had their stuff together. Is what it doesn't sound like. Of course,
absolutely.
But now they, there was, we've talked about the multiple evils out there. Of course, there was still Kagan was out there.
Mm-hmm.
Digitally. Now, he may have been communicating with these guys, but it looks like to me that this Mr. Allen guy, I mean, he may have just had the opportune time. Maybe his wife is out of town. Maybe he was going through whatever kind of mental fugue he was going through. And, he had the taste for blood. We looked at this guy, and, there's a lot of people that have the interpretation of him, of what happened down out there with these girls. This guy's done it before. This is not something new for him. He knew what to do. He knew how to cover things up so that it looked like it was different than it was. Or at least he had the instinct. So, I mean, he may not have been a serial killer, but he sure could have been one, And so I still didn't understand how he went to this, this conservation officer, DNR, whatever people want to call it. Tell me what you interpreted from that. I know I'm kind of rewinding back to where we were, but just how did you interpret how that went down?
Well, from my understanding, it was on the day of the search is when he supposedly, I shouldn't say supposed because it's in the affidavit, when he approached the conservation officer and mentioned he was out there. That's where was that? Oh, I'm pretty positive that was Murder Sheets who put that out there. And I have to say, I mean, they were right about that. I mean, because it's in the affidavit that he did tell this conservation officer, that he was there, but he was, not paying attention, looking at his phone. So it was the day of the search. So he obviously went home, cleaned up, and came back. And like you, I think, I mean, I just can't fathom this was his first time, I mean, to get away with it this long.
I mean, and, he went out there,
with a purpose,
He had a gun, and he probably chambered a bullet way too many times there and had one fall out on the ground that matched up with the way that his gun chambered or racked or whatever you want to call it, bullets, shells, ammunition. And that tied him there because he confessed to the law enforcement officials that he had never let anybody else have the gun, and he had owned it since maybe even before he owned his home, like 2004 or something. For like 18 years or whatever, he's had that gun in his possession, and no one else has had it. And yet, and still there's a lot of ammunition sitting out there on the ground right between these girls. And I think that was another clue, is that there was, 2 feet from both of them, so they were within 4 feet of each other. I think we kind of learned that.
Could that have been a signature? Maybe he left that there because it was between the two bodies?
That's an interesting, because there's a lot. We were at 5 o'clock this morning a long time ago, maybe a different time for you, but we were talking about that this morning. It's like, there were signatures there that we still don't know yet. We learned a lot today, but we don't know what they know in terms of what was at the crime scene. And there could be a lot more there. There could have been things that threw people off, but just reflecting back, it seems like they had this guy. I mean, they had him in the focus that they're, like you said, ISP or Carroll County or somebody had this guy. They knew that vehicle there a long time ago. I mean, like the day of. I mean, probably pretty quick. Probably got the video.
Yeah, but the FBI, that agent was so sure that it was Ron Logan, and they wasted their time, going after him, and it was not. It was not him.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, he was up there. I mean, I'm sure he had his problems, but I mean, like you said, hell, they've been messing with some old man. Like I got him. Yeah. I know. I mean, and until we see that Kagan or anyone with his ring, has been charged with murder to Delphi, I'm still just going to go with it was just Richard Allen and Richard Allen alone. I mean, because this other guy, wouldn't you think, he would have had blood on him too if it's the guy in all black that the witnesses saw. None of them said he had blood on him. Yeah.
Or mud.
Well, exactly. Of course, people interpret. I mean, I have to look back on what happened 3 days ago. I know. I have no idea.
And plus
what happened.
These witnesses were mostly juveniles, and so having kids, they interpret things so differently than us. But I think we'll find out way, way more, once the trial starts. I'm just glad they weren't more redacted, that we could actually, have some of our questions answered. And we know they found, a knife there too at his home, because, that's in the, and I did see where Fig said a while ago that people were talking about the 8th page missing. All that 8th page had on it was all the signatures.
Yeah, because it says here, sign below. I hereby sign below.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's on page 8? What's on page 8? But he said he had a copy of it, and it was just, all signatures.
Now, I would probably surmise that there may be addenda attached to it, addendums, an addendum, but that's okay. We got. This is more than Just back up with us right now. Our conversation from 12 hours ago. This is so much. We have so much more information right now.
Yes.
Than we could have ever imagined with this case. I feel like I came home today and everybody was like huffing, puffing, and all this. I'm like, I went and took a nap because I was like, I feel pretty good. After I heard Sleuth and Hoosier Cold Case, whatever it is, go through it. I was like, I listened to both of them a couple of times, read through the whole thing, and I got your interpretation of it. And I was like, I feel pretty good about this. Just whenever you sent me that text message and you were telling me that they released it and sent me the link to listen, I was like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I felt very good about it. There's still some unanswered questions for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll probably get it soon. What do you think's next? I mean, do you think this case will stick to that timeline they've initially laid out, or do you think it's going to be something different, or what do you think?
Oh,
I'm asking
it's
really
so tight. I know it's just so tight. I mean, it's in the affidavit at the time. So I guess we have to go with that until they tell us otherwise. Now, I will say this. His bail hearing, I can pretty much say that'll be a big no. I do not see, him. I think that's a waste of time now. And maybe that's why she put it so far out, for us to, not necessarily just us, but, for LE to continue to build their case.
Well, yeah, I know that whenever you and I first saw that, I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my God, this, they've got this, the PCA is going to be slim, like the lawyers, the defense lawyers are saying, but I don't think it's as slim as they were insinuating there. And I can assure you that there's probably other evidence that they have, that they've gathered that's going to,
I think we just need to relax. Like you said, I feel better. I do still have, some questions, but, relax, and maybe we'll slowly, we'll get things now. I'm curious to see what his lawyers, if they come out and they say anything, because we got things today, and is it all circumstantial? I mean, people do go to jail for circumstantial stuff, unless there's DNA somewhere. Would there not be DNA on the bullet from him putting the bullet in? I mean, I don't know anything about guns. I don't know.
Well, here's what we do know. They were north, the clothes were found south. So he took the clothes off. They didn't take their clothes off, okay?
That's right.
And so if he did decide to do some kind of a physical whatever with them, there's going to be some kind of evidence there. It may not be semen, it may not be whatever, but it's going to be hair, it's going to be something.
Yeah.
Because he, if he is mentally challenged like he supposedly said he was, and he's on alcohol, he's raging, he's not in his normal state of mind, and that's an interesting concept. I saw the challenge of him saying he was insane, but I mean, I don't think it's a good case for him. I think this guy is, I feel better, Tina. I feel better.
Mm-hmm. And what about the clothes? Did he take off the same piece of clothing? Because then again, that could be a signature. So, I mean, I've got questions like that.
Well, you and I talked about this morning, about the signatures. There's where we spent the majority of our time this morning on my morning walk. I get my morning 2-mile walk, and I was like going, what are these signatures that he left there? What does secular or non-secular mean in the context of Richard Allen, who may or may not have ever been inside of a church? His whole family's religious. We saw that, if you read the obituary of his wife's brother, well, I mean, that's where they can all the time was a church, Assembly of God, which is, pretty radical. And then, so, I don't know.
He has so much stuff in his pockets. Maybe he brought stuff, and if he did, this was planned. This is what he went out there to do that day.
There was definitely, you can see a pistol up under his jacket. I mean, we all know that. I mean, you can see that. Of course, we now know it's a 40, whatever, a 226, which is a little bit bigger than a 22. I hope there is DNA on there. I hope they have this son of a bitch nailed to the wall. But I hope.
Yep, I think this will be the first night in a long time that I think I can actually and go to sleep. Sleep better knowing.
Here's what I got to say. Sleep well, my friend Tina.
All right. I will talk to you later.
Very soon. Thank you.
All right. Bye.